Hi people, welcome to Blue UK Jazz Dance. Just giving you a short insight into myself. From 8 to 22, my life was about going into the RAF. I wanted to be a pilot. After being a pilot in the RAF, I was looking to be a commercial pilot. So these are two things I had in my life. My parents invested 110% of their money in making me a pilot. From 8 to 21, but they were unaware to the fact, like myself, I had undiagnosed dyslexia, asthma, visual stress, and psychosomatic illnesses from not knowing that I had these things. Okay? Now, what happened was important. We're going to RAF from 8 years old. How that happened is simply this. I got beaten. I was nearly killed in my school, primary school. I was tortured, 6 to 8. All white school. My parents decided that they're going to send me to the Caribbean, and my brother and my sister and me went there, and we went to school in Grenada. That's the Caribbean, where my mum's from. I went there to recuperate. I went there for my mum. She wanted me to toughen up. She wanted me to get an understanding, a grounding of where she's coming from. She wanted me to learn. Don't let disadvantages be a barrier to learning, because in Grenada, people live in more an impoverished state than I was in Britain. But their optimism to engage in education was absolutely fantastic, and that's what I learned from there. People are still happy. People still go about their lives, even though they're poor. They go about their lives in a very positive manner. They're very optimistic, and what they do, they're doing everything to get education. A lot of self-learning takes out there. That's what I learned. They live off the land, because most importantly, to live in the primary school, they have something called agriculture studies, which my mum, she never got the opportunity to go to school. But they learn within the community. They have to teach their children to live off the land, and they have a different perspective of seeing the world, because they know about seasons. They know that, you guess what, the crop didn't do well this year, so we have to cut back, etc. They learn a lot of different things, how we live the world. We live different, from having your food provided to making your own food to growing your own food. You live a whole different life, and that's where my parents came from. My parents were very forward-thinking and progressive learners. Yeah? My parents, from a long time ago, had a lot of self-help books. They had their own library. And as I said, my parents responded. When they found out, basically, I was being tortured in primary school, they immediately did something about it. They found money. They didn't have the money to send me to Grenada. And my brother and sister, 3 of us, 8 years old. I was 8 then. My brother was older than me. He was 11. What you need to understand, they didn't have the money. My dad had not been home to see his own parents because he didn't have the finance. They sent the children as part of rehabilitation counselling, because they knew they couldn't have their children going through what they were going through. They knew that to make us self-reliant. They wanted us to have an appreciation, understanding of how to cope, how to manage and survive, and the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. Because our parents were facing extreme racism in Britain, and their children were facing extreme racism at an impressionable age. It was unacceptable to my father, unacceptable to my mother. Boom. So they sent us away. We went to school. When I was on the aeroplane, beautiful woman, stewardess, I said, "Okay, I can see the cockpit, please." She said, "Oh, come on." She allowed me to go and see the cockpit. And I spoke to the people inside the cockpit, the pilot, and He goes, "Oh, what you want to do one day?" And so I was looking at them. I said, "Oh, I don't know what I want to do." He said, "Oh, why do you think about becoming a pilot?" And he told me about his journey. He had been in the RAF, and then he became a commercial pilot. So, oh, boom. So that was dropped in my head. I had no idea that I ever wanted to be a pilot. Quite a long story short, when I went to Grenada, I found out that, guess what, during history, that many black people was in the RAF. That's when it said, boom, I saw it as accessible to myself. I decided I'm going to become a pilot. And then I'm going to become a commercial pilot. When I came back to Britain, I told my parents, I want to become a pilot, and then I want to be a commercial pilot. Now, to be a pilot in the RAF, you have to be extremely fit first, as well as intellectual. It's going to require you to learn what is called flying solo with a new jazzitude. You need to understand, that's where it all set place when I talk about Blue UK Jazz Dance. I use dance to keep me fit for the RAF people, because that was the job I wanted. And what happened at the same time, I wanted to be a professional dancer. My leisure and entertainment, I love dance, and I loved performing arts, and love design. So what I saw as part of my relaxation from a real job was be involved in the performing arts, every aspect of it. Writing my own shows, doing my own sketches, choreographing, working with people. That's what I did. So immediately I had a number of jobs I wanted to do professionally. I wanted to become a professional scriptwriter, professional filmmaker, a professional radio host. I wanted to become a professional designer, fashion designer around jazz. Have you got that? So this is my group on the left. What you see the dress was important. Attire is important in the RAF, is it not? Right. Now my parents were already teaching me that, but it came triplefold because I knew I wanted to be in the RAF. Now jazz, you cannot get better than jazz to learn about attire. Wow. There's so many different genres of dress within jazz. It's incredible. Dress for the stage, dress for sports. If you look through the history and the association with jazz, Art Deco, architecture. Jazz was a mother of many other different types of arts being associated with it. So when you look at jazz, what do you think of classical music? When you think of jazz, you think of contemporary architecture and design. You have to, because it influenced it. The period that it came. Now, if you're a dancer, it goes way, way back. As a dancer, it goes back into the 1800s, how people changed laws because we were banned from dancing on the stage with white people or dancing on stage to make money per se, up to the 1800s. And a person that changed it was a person called Master Juba. Master Juba, boom, this is a picture of him here in my notes. Can you see that? Born William Henry Lane, Master Juba, 1825, combined black footwork with powerful African rhythms, an extraordinary style that evolved in American tap dance, evolved into American tap dance. But not only that, modern dance it evolved. Do you understand? Right, it's important. So this is him. What happens, how that all happened is when you're studying aviation, you study the history, goes back, way back to Egypt. So what you have, what is a key bird associated with flying is the eagle. And that goes way, way back into Egypt. So what happens is, when I wanted to become an aviator, it taught me on an amazing journey of exploration, experimentation, do you know what I'm saying, an investigation into the history of design. All areas to the pyramids, architecture, every aspect of art and design, to Leonardo da Vinci creating the first machine that looked like a plane. It took you back, it went back to the wheels, goes back to engines. And Manchester is a huge, huge place. I'm living in a key area to do with aviation engines because the first steam engine was created here. It goes back to looking into the Industrial Revolution. So it goes back to how engines were created. Because part of my journey in wanting to be an RF I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. I wanted to be a test pilot. But you have to get in your RAF first. Or I wanted to be part of my journey. I had a number of genre of jobs in the RAF as a pilot. If I can, because the number one job a lot of people want to do is be a test pilot. You have to be very clever for that. You have to be very, very fit. A lot of key things need to be done. But the most important thing, you better have the ability to fly solo with a new jazzitude. That's as simple as it is. And that's where the idea of my project came from, was Blue UK Jazz Dance with Bertha LaCour. It was part of me sharing my legacy of my creative thinking. Where did I get it from? Because I say to people think I got it from basically studying jazz only. I didn't. It was basically from the RAF. From a young age of 8, I studied design. Okay? And from an age of 8, from a very young age already, this is my father. And I want to take into that picture. My father was an artist. He into design and serious-minded. Do you understand? This is him in America. My father was a farmer. My father is one who taught me design. And I refused to have organizations, schools I went to. I was one of the exceptional artists at my school because of my dad and my mother. My mother was a great, great, great fashion designer. My mum's great at making jumpers without a pattern. My mum's a great crochet woman. We did it with her. You know what I mean? We helped her in what she was doing. It was from them I got that. And I refused to have what's happened. African Caribbean artists have been written out of history, and the children have not got that knowledge. From 1950, we had visual artists, and they've been written out of history. When we went to school, we were told, most importantly, 50s and 60s children, they were told, we don't have no art. We don't know nothing about design. That time in the 50s and 60s was the most prolific time for the composition of art changing overnight to come improvisational. We had influence from our great African kingdom. We had influenced the world in art, design. All you have to do is go back and look at the Moors in Europe. All this information was kept away from us. The most important thing that the Europeans did to us in Britain, the British did, and the Europeans to African diaspora people, they told them improvisation is shit. That's not a good way to learn. You need to know rote learning. If you don't learn our way, you are inferior to us. That time, they were using improvisation within the society at large. So what happened, you'll find in Britain, many, 99.9% of African diaspora people do not play jazz music. Why? When it's one of the greatest music to explore innovation, enterprise, creativity and imagination.